Today's episode is sponsored by Dance-Off Gamers. Dance-Off Gamers is the leading distributor of video games and other consumer gadgets like the podcast microphone sets, ring lights, headphones, and affordable smartwatches, and many other cool gadgets. For these and more, visit their website at www.danceoffgamers.co. That is www.danceoffgamers.co. Mujevale, Mujevale, Mujevale. My name is Bani Kibuka, and welcome to another episode of the Ugandan Ball Talk Show. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good for today. Yeah. Yesterday I went out with some of my work friends and I didn't know how hard I was gonna get hammered, so I was worried about how I'm gonna wake up today, but I think I'm in good shape to do a podcast.
Good. What time is it over there?
It's 9:28, 9
Oh,
a.m.
fair enough.
So happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Thank you.
Somebody was asking me like when is the last time somebody can say Happy New Year? I don't know. What would be your guess? When would be the last time we can say
Mm,
Happy New Year?
I think the whole of January is okay. I think from February, maybe because it's my birth month and
Yeah.
it's Black History Month, and I feel like that's enough.
Yeah.
January is good enough.
Yeah, I think end of January should be good enough to people stop New Year, Happy
Yeah.
New Year. So how was your 2022? Like just a summary of it. Like what would you put in a summary?
Oh gosh, 2022 for me was very challenging.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a very, very challenging year for me. Um, I don't even know how to summarize the whole year because there's just so much that happened. But yeah, challenging is I think the perfect word.
Okay, like what's the one positive thing you would pick out of 2022?
Mm, a positive thing. I think, not I think, the start of my relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah, that happened in 2022. So that I'm happy about.
that's good. That's good. Yeah, like we said in the beginning, it's a new year, so I usually like to ask people about the 2022. Obviously, in the middle of July, I'm not gonna ask somebody about 2022 because it's already like a different year, so it makes sense to just
Yeah.
start with that. I'm happy to have you on my podcast. I've seen you here and there on a few different interviews on TVs and podcasts. And actually, one of my good friends in London, the 256 podcast
Oh, yes.
for Hakim. And actually, I've had Hakim and Linda on the podcast here too. But I was listening
Nice.
to that when you went on there. And then in
Yeah.
Uganda, I think you did a few interviews there. So I've been seeing you around. I'm like, I need to interview you till one of my listeners was like, hey, you should interview Melissa. So that's when I reached out to you to get you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I love, just sharing my view on things and just talking about stuff. I'm naturally just such a talker, so I'm
Yeah.
always excited when I'm invited to like talk on podcasts.
That's one thing I've noticed. Like every time I listen to your interviews, your podcast, like you like to talk, and you also have your personal YouTube channel that
Yeah.
I tuned in sometimes and I listen. I'm not a stalker. I would say I'm a fan. So like that's how I'll put it. Just follow and just listen to your music too. I actually
Thank
tap in your music too on Spotify. And the other day I was listening to One Life, and then what was the other song? About I think you sang it for your dad or mom, your
Oh yeah, my parents make you proud.
make you proud. Yeah, I was tapping into that. So
Thank
for
you.
today, I'm just gonna have a conversation with you. 90% of that is gonna be about your music and your journey and your story. Because I believe even the person that recommended you to be on the podcast Like they want to
Yeah.
know about you, or they want to know the things that they can't see on your social media, the things they don't know about you. So that's what
Hmm.
we're gonna dive into. And I know you just came back from Uganda like
Yes.
a week ago. Was it a week?
Yeah. In a week, actually. Yeah.
How was the trip to
Um,
from
it
Uganda and while you're
was,
in Uganda?
yeah, it was interesting this time around. I didn't do as much as I usually do. Whenever I go to Uganda, I already pre-plan like how my trip is going to be and meetings and things that I have to get done. This time around, besides spending Christmas with my grandmother,
Mhm,
and Boxing Day with my other grandmother. I didn't really have things planned so much.
mhm.
Um, which, yeah, to a point, I got a bit frustrated just because I'm so used to having things planned out and, working on my to-do list and things like that. I felt a bit stagnant. But I think it was just the feel of just, the whole year of 2022 for me. So, yeah, I feel like all in all, it was an interesting trip. It was very
Yeah.
different from what I'm used to. Um, but yeah.
Every time I go to Uganda, like I'll make a plan. This is what I'm gonna do. These are the people I'm gonna visit. This what I'm.
Yeah.
But the moment I land in Entebbe, it's,
Mm.
it's just like the plan is all crushed up and just throw in the trash and just go with the flow. And I always have a plan, but when you get
Yeah.
there, then your plans are not working because
Oh, you definitely have to. Like with Uganda, you have to be spontaneous and
yeah,
able to adjust. Like usually when I'm there in my car, I already have like a kit of like in case I need to freshen up or I'm somewhere else and I need
yeah,
to, I have certain shoes and different clothes in my car because you just never know what can happen. And, with the traffic, you might not be able to make it to certain appointments and
mm.
stuff like that. So, yeah, Uganda has definitely taught me to, adjust. But because I go so often, I'm so used to it that I think I kind of figured out a way that works for me. So I actually do happen to get a lot of the things done that I plan to do.
Yeah. That's cool that you go often. Some of us just one time a year, once a year.
Mhm.
So I'm planning to go this year for sure. Because the last time I was there, I think it was 2020, 2020. Yeah,
Oh,
2020. Yeah. That was the last time I went there. I used to go like every year, but sometimes like last year I couldn't make it because of
yeah.
other reasons. So yeah, you talked about your grandma, and I saw a story when you were leaving, and it reminded me of my own grandmother. Like, Jaja together. So I was listening to you say that, and
Yeah.
it reminded me of my grandma. I lost my parents on my dad's side, but like every time I would say bye to her, like it brought back the memories of that. How was that? Like leaving your grandma? Are you um connected is not the right word. Like, are you close to your grandma?
Oh, so much. Both of them. My dad's mom, I call her Jaja Mukwano, and then my mom's mom, I call her Jaja Hajat. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet my grandfathers, so I only have my grandmothers. But I feel so blessed. Like every time, it's just whenever they see me, the love they have just feels so genuine and the joy is just so genuine. And it's every day. Like I can go to visit my grandmother today, and even if I leave and come back tomorrow, the excitement will still be the same.
Yeah.
And just whenever I go there, I try to, since I have the YouTube channel, I try to vlog it. And it's just, I love their reaction whenever I come to see them. And my dad's mom is 96 years old. So she's lived such a long life and she just has so much wisdom and advice. And so I love being able to spend time with her and ask her questions about things. How were they back then? And how she met my granddad and, both of them. So yeah, I do love them so, so much. And I feel blessed whenever I get time to, spend with them. And yeah.
That's dope. And the nothing beats the love of grandmother. I love them. I remember the times where they would like put money in your hands and just like they hide it from anybody. Like they pull it out of that chikoi and take
Yeah.
it out and just put it in their fingers. Like I love them. That's cool. Do you have any other siblings?
Yes, very big family. I have 11 siblings on my
Mhm.
dad's side, and then on my mom's side were two. So yeah, I have quite a lot of
Do
siblings.
you are they with you in Germany?
Some of them live here, some of them don't.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, most of them are older than me.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, I'm not in the middle, I'm one of the younger kids.
Now, when on your Instagram you call yourself Munamasaka. Were you born in Masaka and then moved to Germany, or how was that like?
No, I was actually born in Germany,
Okay.
but I was baptized in Masaka and Kako actually. So on my dad's side, where our family village home is, that's where I was baptized. And you know, back then, like for our parents and stuff, the older generation, their birthday is actually the day they were baptized.
Mhm.
So for me, I just resonate with Masaka a lot. There's
Mhm.
a feeling I have whenever I go to Masaka. I just feel at peace. I feel at home. And that's a feeling I don't really get when I'm here in Germany. I guess, Western world, predominantly white,
Right.
growing up in that setting. So yeah, but no, I wasn't born there, unfortunately.
Do you have family there though in Masaka?
Oh yes, my grandmother's still there.
Yeah.
Go to visit her all the time. And then my mom also is from Masaka. So both of my parents are from Masaka. So
Okay. Yeah.
throughout Masaka, those are my, villages. So yeah, a lot of her siblings are there. Um, yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, because if your parents are from there, I mean, even if you're not born there, that's where your village, a child or like that's where it's at. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's crazy because I think you're the fourth person on my podcast who is from Masaka, but
Ooh.
it's crazy. Even in Uganda, you think about the people who are from Masaka, like most successful people in Uganda. I don't know what's in Masaka. I think you can tell me,
I
but
wish you should tell Hakeem about that. Me and him argue all the time about Kawempe and Masaka.
yeah.
Because he's super Kawempe, and I'm like, you
Yeah,
have Masaka as well as that.
Hakim is proud of his Kawempe. And
Oh,
like
he is.
so the biggest towns in Uganda, the people I'm super proud of, Machindi, Kawempe, and Masaka. I think at least for me, from what I've heard, those people
Yeah.
they are passionate about their towns and their wherever they
Yeah, for
grew up.
sure. I mean, Masaka, I don't know. It's for me, again, of course, when I'm in Kako, we're on the hill, the view there is just the most beautiful I've ever seen. So for me, that's like my home, my peace. But then beyond that, I think the food for people that have gone between Masaka and Kampala,
Mhm.
they know like the food just tastes different. I
Right.
think whenever a town is a bit modernized, things start happening. The way they grow foods is different because the demand is higher. So, uh, human beings, we love to tamper with things. So, I feel like Masaka is still a very, very virgin, small town, small city that has so much potential, but also I think one thing that probably makes all these people so successful that come from Masaka or be it Kawempe or whatever, I think just growing up in such a humbling setting where it's like you see so many things and it's like you want out, you strive harder to like achieve certain things and make yourself better and your family better. So I think that's why a lot of people that come from the ghetto or like villages are very ambitious and they just work a bit extra hard because
Yeah.
they just know that things don't just come to you on a silver platter. Like you have
Mhm.
to put in the work. I think that's one of the secrets, maybe you could say, behind.
That's a good reasoning, and I could see the reason why somebody will be passionate of where they're from
from what they've been able to achieve to do. And
Yeah.
they're proud of the roots of where they came from. And I had a question on here on how you moved to Germany, but that explains because you said you were born there. Now, what confuses me is you were born in Germany. Your
Mhm.
Uganda accent is so pure that I don't know how you did that. Like, how did you pull that off? Like, to still
I'm
have your
so
accent
happy
and
when
uh-huh.
when people say that. You know what? My mother gets the first credit because from when I was born, she used to speak Luganda to me. Like I would answer in German, English, and she would just speak Luganda to me. That was her. Obviously, even for her, she moved to Germany. She didn't really know the language. So, that was natural to her. And then my dad, just the mainly the financial support and just letting me explore and travel as much as I did from when I was young. Because even then, we would go to Uganda once or twice a year. So that really helped a lot. And then again, my grandmothers, who I love so much, they both don't speak English. So talking to them, spending a lot of time with them. And then after I finished school, which is like A levels, I guess. Or is it high school in America, maybe? I don't know. But before you basically join university, when I
Mhm.
finished school, I decided to move to Uganda for a year. But then it ended up being a year and a half. I extended. Um, and, by then I think I moved when I was 18. I started my own charity organization. So I wanted to be in Uganda for a period of time, since I didn't get, the privilege to like go to school there, anything like that. I would only go for holidays. So that all really helped a lot with my Luganda, I would say.
That's really good. And when you mentioned about you how one like talking to your grandparents who don't speak English, I see
Yeah.
how that can force you to learn the language. My mom is from Kenya, and my grandma doesn't speak any English. So she would take us there for Christmas holiday, like the whole December, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll be stuck with your grandma there, and the only thing you're gonna do is figure out how to talk to her. So I learned Swahili that way, just trying to figure out how I can talk to my grandmother, and
Yeah.
that's one of the good things to help you. What I was gonna ask you some like I want you to say this sentence in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna say, "My name is Melissa Mulungi, and you're listening or watching the Ugandan Boy Talk Show podcast in Germany."
Oh, mein Name ist Melissa Mulungi und ihr hört gerade oder ihr schaut gerade den Ugandan Boy Talk Show Podcast. Ich hoffe, es gefällt euch.
Yeah. That's that's crazy. When I don't know what is that Germany is Germany different from Dutch?
Yes. So Germany, the country is called, in English, the country is called Germany.
Mhm.
In German, the country is called Deutschland, and then the language is called German. So it's not Germany, it's German. And then in German, the German language is called Deutsch. But then Dutch is what they speak in the Netherlands.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
because when
So they
uh-huh.
can understand German actually. Some words, it's like can I say maybe like Luganda and Lunyankoleova, something like that, or maybe like when you have
Like
the
Lusoga.
language has similarities, you can understand, but you don't necessarily can speak it.
Okay.
It's like that.
All right. So you touched a little bit on your schooling. You went to school in Germany, all your education.
Yes.
So what did you study at university?
I'm still at uni actually,
Okay.
doing my bachelor's degree in health economics.
Okay.
Yeah. It's taken a bit longer than it should,
Mhm.
just because of COVID and, just things that have been happening. But yeah, I'm doing health economics. I took a break after school to then go to Uganda, and then I came back and started university.
So health economics.
Mhm.
Now, how then? do you get into music? I thought I was gonna hear, oh, I went and I did the master in music
In
in this.
music.
So how do you get in music? I want to take us
Yeah.
on a journey on first
Um,
time you started it.
my music journey started when I was about 3 years old. It started in church. So I used to go to an American church, Atterbury Chapel. And from there, 3 years old, they had a children choir. So that's where I started singing. And I think, um, choir directors usually already pick out like strong voices or people who are quite confident. So I've always been a very dominant and very confident and outspoken person. So yeah, church choirs and then after that, school choirs as well. But that's how my interest for music started and grew up until I want to say school, teenage age, when I used to really, be interested in different musicians and listening to different music. And, I used to write little freestyles here and there for fun. And then I would share that with friends, and they would also give me the feedback. Oh, that sounds so dope. And they would tell me you need to go to like the equivalent of like American Idol for Germany. They're like, you need to go there and you're so talented. But yeah, for me to actually take the step and say, you know what, I'm going to professionally enter the music industry was in that time when I moved to Uganda. I just got to know so many different artists and producers, and they really pushed me and said, Mel, you need to do something. And I feel like, I don't know, I want to say God sent, these people in my life, because it's like with everyone that does music, it's a thing of like, you can't run away from it. Even if you decide to like say, okay, I'm not going to do this right now, it comes back and haunts you.
Mhm.
So all these people came into my life, doors after doors opening, and, producers sending me beats. And it's like, I didn't have to actively do anything or invest any single coin. So it was like, okay, you would be silly if you don't tap into the talent that God gave you. So yeah, that's how I started.
So there's a few things I'm gonna highlight on the answer you just gave me. First of all, I was singing in church choir. My dad had it
Yeah.
in Uganda, but for me, that's why I learned that it can either be for the good or it can be for the bad. For me, when they put me in the church choir, but my dad was forcing me to sing, and
Mm.
that made me hate it. So I can't sing to even save my life. Like I can't, like, I can't. Uh, but I see, like I like to hear that that's how you picked up yours and just pick it up from there. The other thing was you mentioned about starting to listen to other people's music. Is this something you still do? Like, are there artists that you really love? And I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but is there any your favorite either Ugandan artist and then any other international artists like
Yeah.
outside Uganda?
That question is always a bit hard for me just because I listen to, first of all, so many different genres. And I admire so many different artists for so many different reasons. So it's very hard for me to pick like a favorite overall.
Mhm.
But yeah, I still listen to different music, Ugandan music a lot. I feel like it's where my interest is at most because it's just home, and I also, before I started doing music myself, I was involved in the industry behind the scenes, like helping different artists out and stuff like that with music distribution online and stuff like that. So my interest has always been, in the Ugandan market, just listening to the music. But beyond that, even internationally, I listen to artists from the USA, from the UK, from France, from very much all over the place when it comes to music. But yeah, it's definitely still something I do.
So growing up, I loved music. I didn't love to sing, but I love music. I love music, but I love
Yeah.
listening to people sing. Like I think my Spotify, no, it was Apple Music review came back, and I think I
Mm.
had over 85,000 hours of music like in 2022. I feel
Wow.
like my life is with music. Like if and they asked me those questions like what's something, I mean I can live without it, but like literally I can't live without music. Like it's not
Yeah.
like I'm gonna die if I don't have it. But in like literal
It's
sense,
a huge part of your
music is
life.
a huge part of my life, so I love that. So growing up, and I don't think I've ever shared this on the podcast too, like I wanted to be a DJ, a
Oh.
producer. And I actually had started picking up DJing. Like I would do mixes in my room. Like I started with cassette tapes. Actually, I wouldn't mix it, but like they like Friday nights, they would some radio station would put like mixes of DJs on there. So I'll record
Mhm.
that on the tapes and my dad's tapes, and my dad would beat me because he had like important stuff on there, and I would
You just
re-record it.
overplay
Yeah.
it.
And then he goes to play and he's just playing some random mixes and he'll beat me. And then I got a computer and then I started those virtual DJ thing. And then we're doing with a childhood friend who actually now is a DJ in Uganda. I don't know if you've heard him. He's out there, but he's DJ Jammy Jammy. Shout out to DJ Jammy Jammy. He went on with a dream and he's now like a DJ there and he's doing it,
Right.
he's killing it. I didn't. I lost my path and I went somewhere else, but I'm not mad that I went wherever I went
Yeah.
with God's plan. But yeah, all a producer. And like I wanted to make beats and just do that. And I watch music shows, I watch like The Voice in the US, American Idol. I love to listen to people sing. So that music is a huge part of my life. So I love music. That's why I like to sit down and interview you guys who do music to just um pick your brains or be in your life like while I'm listening to what you guys go through.
Yeah.
So the other question I want to ask you is what was your first experience like with music? Like, when you say doing professionally, like what's an experience? It could be a good experience or a bad experience. Like what was that first experience with music for you?
I think just recording the song in studio, that process, I think when you listen to music, especially if you're not in it yourself, you just listen to it. Sometimes you listen to the lyrics or the beat or whatever, but you don't actually often think of like the actual process of recording a song and writing a song, what goes into that. So for me, that experience was so new, but I loved it so much at the same time. But then it was also different. It's not me singing in front of a crowd, which not even a crowd, but like an audience, which I'm used to, or in front of my friends, or recording a freestyle on my phone, voice notes. Like it's actually a studio. You're there with a producer, you're working together, you're merging ideas. And I was so open to just listen because I didn't know anything about
Yeah.
recording a song professionally. So yeah, I just loved that experience. Studio time to me still is so special, but I feel like that was the first moment it felt like, wow, I'm really doing this. Like I'm in a professional music studio, headphones on and everything, the little girl that once dreamt to be a musician is now actually taking that first step. So that was definitely a very pivotal moment for me in
That's
music.
that's a good experience. And you touched on a few things too, like I wanted to ask. One of it was writing music. So do you write your own music? And if you do, what inspires you when you're writing a song or when you're writing a music?
Yeah. For the songs that are out right now, I've actually written all of them. One Life was a collaboration between me and Benji. So he wrote the chorus and his verse, and then I added my verse. But with Empire of Love and Make You Proud, which are my first two singles, I actually looked at instrumentals on YouTube, and then I just like wrote to those. I didn't really think about it too much. though Empire of Love was at first went to a different direction, and then in studio, Beanie Ganta was actually there, who's also a musician in Uganda. And yeah, he just asked me, he's like, so, what are you thinking of right now? And where do you want to take the song? And I was like, well, because I had just come from a day of like doing charity. So I was like, oh, I just done charity. So it turned out to be this whole like kind of inspirational world song. So yeah.
You touched about singing in front of a crowd and a big audience. What was like one huge moment for you where you had to sing to like a big audience, or even the first time you had to sing on a big audience? What was that experience with for you?
Um, for my own song to actually perform it in front of an audience, I think the first time was actually last time I was in Uganda. There's a song called Call on Me that I'm featured on, and
I think I saw that. Yeah.
on an EP. So he did an EP listening for it, and we performed the song there with the playback. But other than that, really performing, it's only been church. I haven't actually had a concert of my own, or any performances of me performing my own music. I
Mhm.
haven't done that yet. I recorded an unplugged, but yeah, that didn't have any audience to it. It was just like a recording that we did.
Yeah, I saw that clip of you singing that song "Call on Me" with Apers, and I don't remember the name of the other guy.
Yeah, Lagum the rapper.
Okay, yeah, that was when you're in Uganda. I saw that clip on there. So you talked about like you've not done like a big concert, but like let's say you're going to perform somewhere, and I know you sing to different audiences. Do you ever have like a pre-show ritual that you do when you're going to sing? Like, what do you do before you get on stage to sing?
I actually haven't developed one yet. I
Okay.
think that will come once I start actually performing. For
Mhm.
now, I just try to like listen to the song again so that I don't forget the lyrics. But yeah, other than
Is
that,
that a thing?
I don't have a
Is that a
ritual
thing
yet.
that you can forget the lyrics of the
Oh,
song?
for sure. I remember one time, my friend Lydia Jasmine, she called me on stage to sing One Life at her show that she was booked to perform at, and I was sick. So when I got on stage, I forgot the whole song, like how it started. I just had little glimpses of like the lyrics, but I didn't remember how the song started. And I didn't have any playback as well to help me. So
Oh.
that was just, yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Like you could have told the DJ to just play the CD back then.
That was, yeah.
What are some of the challenges of being a musician? Like now that you're in that field, like what could you see? So this is really challenging as a musician.
Um, I think the idea that I had, like growing up in Germany, being interested in music from, the US and stuff like that, the picture that I have of the industry was completely different than what I experienced in Uganda. Like, just as a little example, in Uganda, a song for it to become big, I want to say 99% of the times you have to have visuals, you have to have a music video for the song. And then also the way music is consumed in Uganda is mainly in bars and lounges and clubs. People Ugandans are just now kind of really getting into the whole streaming music and just listening to music just to listen.
Mhm.
Um, because I guess the internet is also very expensive and stuff like that. So yeah, just understanding that music, the industry, it's a business. And yeah, you have to handle it as that. It's not just having passion for music and going to studio and recording and writing. There's so much to it. um but yeah, I've been loving it so far. I haven't fully tapped into it yet since I'm still at uni and that's my main focus.
Mhm.
But yeah, so far it's been amazing.
And this other question is not by no means to describe you anything. Is there any time you've ever thought about quitting music? Like you get to this point of like, I'm done. I want to quit it.
Quitting it, no. I feel like I haven't done anything yet, but no, I've never thought about quitting. Like I said, music just haunts you. Like it's a passion of mine. I've ever since I can think, I've been singing and loving music, but I've definitely had moments where I've thought to pause it for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
I like to ask that question too, just see what made the person to get to the point of like, I want to stop it.
Yeah.
The other thing, is there any artist, oh, I'm not gonna say Uganda, but anywhere like you would want to collab with? Like, is there an artist like I would love to do a collab with this person?
Oh yeah, the list is so long. The list is so long, but I think internationally, I think Rihanna would be super dope. Beyonce, and then Afrobeats, the big three, Davido, Wizkid, Burna Boy. In Uganda, I would love to do a song with Lydia. She's a good friend of mine. I think our voices would be beautiful on a
I
song
would think that would be
together.
easy for you because you're already good friends. It could be just easy. Let's go to
Yeah.
studio.
But you know what? It's so funny. People think we already have a song and we're just not talking about it because we're together all the time and we're so close. But and we've been to studio together many times, projects of hers, projects of mine, but we actually have never recorded a song together. But yeah, it's pending,
I was
definitely.
gonna say you could reveal that on my podcast, then maybe we'll go viral. Like, oh yeah, they have a song and she revealed that on my podcast.
I wish I could say that because we've planned it, talked about it times, but we haven't done it. But yeah, it's definitely that has to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's all you, was it only Lydia or there's another person?
Oh gosh,
How about
Uganda.
the guys? Like which the guys, like which
Um,
male artists would you?
I know everyone expects me to say Eddie Kenzo because he's
Yeah.
family. And same thing like Lydia. I've been to studio with Eddie so many times. Actually, there are songs I just don't know the titles where my vocals are in the songs.
Mhm.
But we've not recorded a collaboration either. But yeah, could be interesting.
Yeah,
Could be
I would
interesting.
love to see that song with Eddie Kenzo. I think it would be dope. Yeah, for sure. For sure,
I'm
get
very
us on that one.
positive about it. Yeah, we need to first make sure he gets the Grammy home. And
Yeah,
then
that's for sure. That's for sure. He brings it home.
Today's episode is sponsored by Dance of Gamers. Dance of Gamers is the leading distributor of video games and other consumer gadgets like the podcast microphone sets, ring lights, headphones, and affordable smartwatches, and many other cool gadgets. For these and more, visit their website at www.danceofgamers.co. That is www.danceofgamers.co.
You went and made yourself a cup of tea?
I had my tea here. I forgot about it.
Uh, I have mine here too. I forgot sometimes, but whenever you were talking, I would grab one and take a sip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really like to take a lot of time, but sometimes I get into a conversation and it just goes and but I usually try to keep my episodes short. Some of them go longer. Like I've had like the one I released this weekend with Fiona was like an hour, but I usually don't try not to take a lot of people's time unless they say, "Oh yeah, I'm free." But this session, it's usually that's where I wrap up things, and I want to have a good ending other than Zoom just cutting me off. But one
Yeah.
of the things I wanted to touch on was fashion. I think you love dressing out fashion. Even when somebody looks at your Instagram, like who inspires and what inspires you fashion and dressing?
You know what? I I don't have a particular person that I look at and I'm like, I love their fashion. I think my fashion is very much all over the place. Like I don't think you can say, oh, Melissa has like a street style or like a lady or whatever it is. I'm very much whatever the occasion is, however I feel, whatever I'm doing. But I've learned to love fashion. I've learned to have fun with it a bit. and, just try different things out. For a very long time, growing up in Germany, being a Ugandan woman, you have a certain, or most of us have a certain body type that is um, not so often seen in Germany. So for a long time felt, uncomfortable wearing different things and stuff like that. But I got to a point where I was like, you know what? This is how God created you, and you're beautiful the way you are, and you should just find what suits you and what fits for you. So yeah, I've been really enjoying fashion a lot.
Yeah. The other question I forgot to ask about your music, like how is it hard to promote your music in Germany?
Yeah, I've actually not started promoting it. I'm planning to have either a German song on my EP that I'm working on, or I might do a separate EP with German songs. But I definitely do want to tap into the German industry just because it's part of me as well. I grew up here, I grew up listening to German music as well. Um, so yeah, I think especially as like a Black person, an African living in Germany, I think it would be good to just have more representation in that field.
Mhm. Yeah, I understand on that part. That's the same thing with my podcast. It's still I have my fun bit most fun base is the US because I've
Mm-hmm.
been here for over 10 years, I think. Um, but also still Uganda is home, and I have a lot of listeners too in Uganda and supporting me, but that's why I decided to just keep my podcast in English. A lot of people in Uganda say, hey, you should do some in Luganda, and I would love to, and I can still speak to Luganda, but I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to think of like because it's listened to all over the world. And there's an episode I did in Luganda because I have friends that don't speak English,
Yeah.
like there's this one friend of mine who's Ifa. He's like, Barney, I love your podcast. I would love to
But
listen
it's
to
too much
Nailuzungu,
English.
Oluzungu.
That's what they say, even with my music. I get that same feedback.
When he comments on Facebook, he's like, Kati fetot kore de ako Uganda sebo. Uh,
Yeah.
what has been a life lesson like you've learned in life till today?
Yeah. Shortly before I get into that, I just wanted to say, since you had already talked about you and the podcast, I think um for me, I always command whenever I see Ugandans doing podcasts. That's why I'm excited whenever I'm invited to talk, just because I feel like, we have to be our own voice and share our stories. And I feel like Uganda is such a diverse country, as small as it is, but there's so much diversity in our cultures and just so many different people. And then, especially when you have some of us who grew up in the diaspora or moved to the diaspora, all these different views that we have. So I think it's amazing that you have this podcast. And, I commend you. I want you to continue doing that and having as many people and hopefully a bigger outreach, it grows more and more. But yeah, I just wanted to
Thank,
say that.
thank you for that. Actually, I think you would love. I'm gonna send you the link to Hakim's episode. We did an episode of like Ugandans living in the diaspora. Him and I.
Yeah.
It was dope. It was dope, and listening to that guy talk, he's like so smart. Like I love
Yeah.
I hear him a lot. He's so smart,
Yeah.
and the way he says his things and the way he does his things is pretty cool. And yeah,
Yeah.
I love it that I've had you here too, and just listening to you. And the reason why I did this was to help also my other friends in Uganda to just listen to your story, your journey. Somebody might be looking up to you, especially like the person who say, "Hey, you should get Melissa on the podcast." Like maybe they want to listen to you, and maybe your words are gonna inspire them and be a better person. And that's my whole point about the podcast, and I love it when I get to sit down with people and talk about it.
That's amazing. I'm humbled. Thank you again. But yeah, life lesson. I've learned so much in life. My dad is a psychiatrist, so I'm very self-reflecting. I'm very digest my whole childhood and everything that has happened to me in life. I'm very, very reflecting on that. But maybe right now, as I have turned, I'm almost turning 26 years old next month. I think one of the things is kindness. I think that's one thing that has brought me so far. Like it has become, it's part of me. Many times when people talk about, like, the first thing they notice about me, or when they talk about me when I'm not in the room, it's one of the things that is said about me, and I take a lot of pride in that. Just because I've encountered with so many different people of so many walks of lives. And one thing I've learned is that, everyone has a story, everyone has reasons why they do things, how they do it, be it good or bad. And we actually don't know what people go through behind closed doors. So just being kind doesn't cost a thing, but it can make someone's day and it can help someone out there. So yeah, that is definitely music. Everything I do, actually, kindness is like on the center of it all, because my music in Uganda, for it to be played on radios and TVs, is literally out of kindness. Someone that knows the Ugandan industry knows it's a lot of money back and forth, but I've never paid for a song to be played on radio or TV or in bars or lounges or clubs. Never. So yeah, it's one thing that is really, really written big in my life.
Yeah, that's a good thing to talk about, kindness, and I advocate for kindness and peace and love. And when you touched about that, my minds went back to when you said there's a lot of things happening in somebody's lives behind closed doors that we can't see. My mind
Yeah.
went back to Twitch. And when he passed, I got shocked. Like, I didn't know him personally. I knew him like other people on the
Yeah.
but reading
I'm so
his story on what happened, like he's the guy, you'd watch him on TikTok, he's happy, he has a nice
happy
family,
all the time. Yeah.
has a smile. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a lot of people like that that are hiding a lot, not hiding, but like you have a lot going on, but you still smile, you're still pushing. And some people wonder, but if you're nice, you're kind to that person, maybe you're gonna be the breakthrough of somebody's to change
Sure.
their decision on like suicide or whatever they do. So I'm pretty big at advocating kindness and loving one another, and that's all we can do. Maybe you're gonna help somebody else. So I'm glad you talked about that. The other question is, what gets you excited about life?
Um, Seeing people happy.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing. Even with music, just knowing that when people listen to my songs, they're happy, or they feel like they can relate, or it helps them with anything in their life. I think seeing people happy just genuinely gives me joy. Like, kids for me are the greatest thing. Like, I love children. But just because, there's a way kids have that genuine happiness, and it's just, it gets you, and you can't be there and see a kid laugh out of like pure joy and just not laugh. And I think it's also something that's so big in Uganda, like happiness and laughter. As much as we go through what we go through, I think one thing about Ugandans, we want to be a happy nation. So that's why, even if we have stress and we're broke or whatever, we just still get together and laugh, and they drink and whatever it is. Like, that's just who we are. Like, we socialize, we're a very welcoming country, and very happy people. Yeah.
And on that note, I would like to quote a quote from one of the guests I had here, Nyaika. And if you know Nyaika,
Yeah.
he does like he shoots like short films of concerts and stuff. He calls himself Party Central Nyaika 256. There's one video he shot people having fun in Uganda at midnight, and his caption was like, Uganda is a middle class country at midnight. Like no matter what, in during day you can scream about the economy and everything.
Yeah, poverty and
But at midnight, it's a middle class country. Like people
yeah,
can have fun, people are gonna show up.
that
Um,
is so true.
um, the other thing is a caption you posted on your latest post. I don't know, but it says if you find your joy within yourself and outside of the world, then the world can't take your joy from you. I read that. I'm like, that's deep. What does that mean, like for you when you wrote that?
Yeah. So I think a lot of times you see how I just mentioned um seeing other people makes me happy. I think as much as that is part of me, um, it gets dangerous when that is your only source of happiness, you know. Because in life, COVID, for example, for me as a student, moved out at 18, you know, I live alone. I did not have any social contact in person. So I was in my room, you know, I could go for walks or whatever, but we were not allowed to socialize or be in these places. I could not see other people being happy because I couldn't leave my house like that. So that time, COVID really taught me that, okay, when you don't have that and it's just you have to have the joy within yourself. Because if you don't, you get to a point where you feel like you're pouring into people so much. And then, because for some of us, that's our nature. And then that's when those suicidal thoughts kick in because you're like, okay, I'm always happy when I'm around people and I see people happy. But once I'm alone in my room, it's dark, you know? So yeah, that's why I put the caption out there. It was just something that was on my heart after some videos I had seen. I'd watched podcasts actually. Um, so yeah, I wanted to share that.
Like I said, that was deep when I read it, and I wanted you to talk about that because maybe somebody who is listening to this will also pick it up and feel the same way I felt when I read it. My final
Yeah.
question on the podcast is,
Mhm.
and this is my signature question. Who would you like to see on my podcast next? And you're gonna help me find that person to be on this podcast.
That's a good question. Who I would love, I would love for Eddie Kenzo to be on the podcast. Just because, you know, for me, of course, he's family, so I know, but like his story is just so inspiring. I don't know if it would be enough time to do it
You
in
know,
the time frame that you like, but
yeah,
I feel like, I mean, anyone that knows him or is in his circle or, you know, just his life story is very, very inspiring. And yeah, he has a lot of wisdom, regardless of him having finished his school education or not, but he's just, yeah. So that
that's
would be,
actually. No, I'm glad you talked about that because he has been on my bucket list for 2023. Like, so if you can connect me to Eddie Kenzo, I would really appreciate to have sit down with him. That would be an honor because yeah, I mean, he's family. You know a lot about him than actually I would do. But like even as the fans, you can listen to his story. Like he shares some bits and bits, and like
yeah,
watching his life, how he's succeeded. Like he out of like kind of Kambata. I think that's
yeah,
what he
true.
said. But yeah, I would love to talk to him. So that would be amazing. But once again, yeah, I'll reach out to you if you can connect me to him and see what time. I know he's a busy man, and
Yeah,
it's
hopefully
him. But
this year with the Grammys, it's a lot, but maybe, yeah, maybe towards the, well, yeah, mid to end around there. Yeah, I'll ask him about his schedule for this year. I know these next weeks and months are very busy for him. He's not going to be in a he's actually coming to the US for the Grammys, but he's going to be doing a lot over there. But yeah, I'll ask him or management what his schedule is looking like for this year.
Sounds good. So finally, I want to take a picture first on here. And
Yes.
then got it. All right, Melissa, thank you very much for giving me your time and being on my podcast. I had a blast just talking to you. I like it when
Pleasure.
I mean, obviously, I do plan. I started doing a freestyle conversation, but I felt like, yeah, as much as I love freestyle conversation, there's a lot of information that I miss out. I forget. I love
Yeah.
freestyle conversation, and later on, I listen to it when I'm editing. I'm like, oh, I should have asked her this. I should have asked this. So now I still write down some notes to just kind of guide me on what I want to talk about. But I
Mhm.
like the flow of the conversation that it went smooth, and I think the listeners will enjoy it.
I hope they do. But yeah, again, thank you so much for having me and keep doing what you do. I'll be tuning in as well.
All right, before you go, actually, just tell the listeners your social platforms and where they can stream your music. And then
Yeah.
I'm gonna put in the description too.
Okay, perfect. My music is streamed everywhere, any music platform, be it Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever. You just type in Melissa Mulungi and then you should see the whole list of songs that are out there. And then on my Instagram and Facebook, it's Melissa Mulungi. And then on my TikTok, it's Melissa Mulungi. But on my Twitter, it's She Always Does It.
She always does it. All right, and that marks the end of the podcast. See you. And keep in touch.
All right. See
Bye.
you.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
Hey there, this is Bonnie Kibuka, the host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with a friend and recommend somebody to this podcast. Don't forget to leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. And also don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. Join us on our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much and be blessed.